Dear all, a very good afternoon. It's my pleasure and honor to talk about MSME, the micro, small, medium enterprises in India. They are the backbone of the Indian economy. They provide the largest employment, and it's very important that we as individuals and professionals are able to become the voice of the MSME and support in whatever fashion we can do for the growth of the MSME. We as a team have joined hands together to hold special sessions to help the MSME to grow. Today, the first session, we are going to talk about an overview of the MSME, how do we define it, what are the attributes of SME, and what are the challenges which MSME faces, and how we can help them meet those challenges. Then we also have a dedicated session to talk about excellent opportunities for MSME in US and Canada, which are global economies, and a lot of people want to do business there. Then we will also have a dedicated session on opportunities in Dubai, a country very close to India and a second home for many Indians. So we'll also talk about that. And then, very important, we have a session on the growth of MSME companies in African Union. In recent times, lot of businesses have grown exponentially there, and we will provide an overview about what all opportunities lay for MSME companies in African Union. And lastly, and most importantly, we'll talk about the new funding avenues. The world has changed a lot. Traditional methods of funding have been replaced by new creative methods. And there are times when one can plan their funding to keep the cost of funding low. So we will talk about all those new avenues for the help of the MSME. Today's session is Introduction to MSME, and before we start and go deeper into the different aspects, let's first define the MSME. As per the government criteria, they have taken some parameters regarding the investment in plant and machinery and turnover to define those MSMEs. For example, a company which is defined or business which is defined as micro, we are talking about a plant and machinery equipment investment up to 1 crore and the annual turnover up to 5 crore. Similarly, for a small enterprise, the definition is about capital investment up to 10 crores and the annual turnover up to 50 crores. And medium, we are talking about investment up to 50 crores and turnover up to 250 crores. So if you look at the definition, practically if you look north, south, west, east, we are flooded with MSME enterprises across India. If I was to just provide a number, within Delhi NCR itself, we have 19,000 MSME which are officially identified. There could be more also. If I look at northern India, the number is 100,000. So again, we are talking about huge number of MSME enterprises in India. Now, I have already defined the number of MSME, which itself shows that why MSME discussion or why MSME is very important for success of India. Firstly, MSME without doubt is the backbone of the Indian economy. Every place you go, you are finding an MSME company being operated in a local geography, providing employment to the local people, usage of the local resources, and that is where the what we call as the spine of the Indian economy is there. If we talk about the global targets which India has been talking about, we initially heard about a $5 trillion Indian economy, and now the latest talk is about $10 trillion Indian economy. How will this happen? This can only happen with the growth of the MSME in India. India lives in rural sector, And when we talk about rural sector, we are talking about tier 2, tier 3 and other rural areas. So if those people move up the chain and become a developed join the middle class, only then these targets can be achieved. And MSME has a very important role to play to achieve those targets. Again, we know that while there's a talk about MSME, the startup and everything, but I must give good big credit to the Indian enterprises right from the day when we got independence. There was no help, there was no organizations or no big setups which government could provide. But these are the people or entrepreneurs who started from the scratch. We have so many stories, whether it is in the IT industry or whether it is in the manufacturing. People took on their own initiative, started an enterprise, and now they are global enterprises. Again, hats off to Indian entrepreneurship and hats off to the whole culture of MSME entrepreneurs. Again, I'll just talk about some of the very important elements which have been making India successful, and all because of the MSME. Today, a small enterprise in a local geography has the capability to employ an unskilled, untrained or uneducated person and employ him and make him a productive resource within his enterprise. And that is where the strength of MSME lies. They gel so well with the local people, local resources. They are able to exploit them for the benefit of the economy and for the benefit of the local geography. Again, as I have already mentioned, the exploitation or the use of the local resources, whether it is the manpower or the minerals or anything which is there in the local geography, the best enterprises to use them for the overall benefit of the Indian economy are the MSME. So we must ensure that we provide enough support and guidance to the MSME to grow in India and make India a bigger economy for the world, in the world. Now let's talk about some of the attributes, and these are soft attribute of MSME. It's very important to understand these attributes so that we can connect better with the MSMEs. First again, most of the MSME entrepreneurs are first generation or second generation. Our country is a young country if you look at from a post-independence period. We have got independence only 75 years back, and that's where when the journey for people to take initiative, do something, and now a lot of those peoples are practically big enterprises or big businessmen. So the key attribute is that we are talking about first generation or second generation entrepreneurs who are the main part of the MSME entrepreneurs. Again, when this whole concept of MSME was evolving, we are talking about people who went to their friends and their relatives. There was no official financial support. They borrowed money or took some money and started the enterprises. I can take one or two very big, easy example which everybody knows. Respected Narayan Murthy, who's now heads a large conglomerate of the Infosys as an enterprise. We have heard the story about he borrowing his money from his wife to start. Imagine if that money was not borrowed, we would not have Infosys, which is a global brand today. And again, those stories are not one, there are many stories. There are people, companies. I remember another example of HCL where they started the enterprise from a garage, and I am sure their well-wishers would have supported them, and today we know that HCL is a huge enterprise globally in the world. Again, the benefit of MSME is that they are the best businesses to gel with the local people and use the local resources for the overall growth of the Indian economy. India is a very diverse country where so many languages, so many religions, so many cultures. It is MSME who are able to gel in that local dynamics and being able to produce economical opportunities. And that's where I say they are the best enterprises to exploit our local resources. Again, when the MSME evolves, they have a vision of first using the local resources, and they initially cater to the demand which is required locally. But now those things are also changing with e-commerce, with greater communication, with easy methods of transportation, and with all those things happening, now these MSMEs are getting more visibility. And I can, definitely those have become, some of them have even become global brands now. So while the journey started with local supply and local demand, but the time is not far away, a lot of our MSME will be global brands. Again, while we talk about big words like business transformation, fintech, and all those jazzy words, which sometimes big consulting or big financial institutions provide their services to big corporate. But what about MSME? If MSME entrepreneur is spending practically whole day in the office, struggling with the local challenges, thinking on his own about what to be done if there's a problem, trying to find the workaround to resolve his problem. And that's basically a huge credit to the overall attitude and the aptitude of that entrepreneur. And again, hats off to these people for being able to manage or start and grow without major help to begin with. But definitely as they grow big, they can hire bigger professionals. But the journey in the beginning always is hard. And again, hats off to them for being creative right from the beginning. Now, we just spoke about some of the attributes, but it's also very important that we also enlighten these MSMEs with the changing ecosystem. And with this enlightenment, if they can also gain and they can also bring about some changes which can help them grow further. So we are talking about expediting their growth. Today, it has become very important for businesses, MSME businesses, to plan their succession. We know very well a lot of businesses who do well, they send their children to the outside, and sometimes those children do not want to come back. When I say outside India. So it has very become important for MSME businesses now to see how they can expand in a country outside India also, and help the children to integrate with the existing businesses. Again, a very important topic. Secondly, technology. Technology has an impact across the business process today. Whether it is the go to the market, whether it is production technique, whether technology becoming part of the product, there are changes every place. And people or the MSME entrepreneurs who are ahead of the game can definitely take the advantage of the technology and become a global player. Again, from an Indian government perspective or from a global perspective, there has been a lot of changes taking place. For example, IT. Today, most of the IT infrastructure has moved on the cloud. The tax structure is changing. The GST is always evolving. So it's very important for MSME now to keep a track or an update on these changes and ensure that, because these changes are not there to trouble the businessman. These changes are to make the business more seamless, more easy for the businessman. So it's very important. And again, we should not forget that as the growth happens, you are also competing globally also. So it's very important to keep oneself ahead of all these changes and plan it well, execute it well. Again, there is no